Let's check in with Scott Grayson. Grayson's grades are posted after every Eagles game on 97.3 ESPN.com. He was in Chicago yesterday. You know, Scott, a lot of times we start off these conversations by asking you what it was like in the locker room, and you would say, somber, disbelief. How about yesterday?
Definitely more celebration yesterday than there was the week before when they beat Washington and got into the playoffs. These guys were really joking around a lot with each other, enjoying that moment. And this is a team that very much focuses on living in the moment. That's from Peterson and also from Foles. That's stuff they preach all the time. I think the funniest thing was the first two guys that kind of walked over near were Brandon Graham and Chris Long, and they just were having a good 5-minute conversation about how much they would not want to be a kicker in this league, and just kind of laughing with each other about how much they enjoy the jobs they have, not want to be having to do that. So I think that sheds a little bit of light on how much they understand the pressure that goes into that position.
Yeah, obviously. Did you get a chance to talk to Hester or see Hester talking about the fact, because the television broadcast never brought up that ball was deflected?
No, several players said, Malcolm Jenkins was one who said, the players that were out there on that field goal block unit heard it. You heard it, that noise it makes when it hits things. So we knew somebody got a piece of it, but we didn't know how much they got of it. And they said when I turned around to look at the ball, it was evident they didn't get very much of it, but he said they got enough. And the replay showed. But no, I was not by Hester. I was sitting up in the press box by Bo Wolf, so I heard him talking about his conversation with Hester afterwards where, he admitted that he got it. He got a piece of it, and the video showed it later. But, yeah, the players knew that somebody got a piece of it. They just didn't know how much, and I guess he got enough to just make it glance off that upright.
Yeah, it looked like it was very, very small portion of his fingers.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it until today, guys. I mean, you talk about them not saying it on the broadcast. I didn't even realize that he got a piece of it until this morning when I woke up.
Yeah, and you know what? To me, that's a big fail on their part. I mean, you got to go back and look at that video right away, and you got to be showing something like that because, look, Cody Parkey to a man took that well. He was talking to the media afterwards. He stayed on the field and prayed with players after that. He took the shower of booze that came with it, and he took the brunt of the blame that went along with it too, and he didn't need to in the sense that it did get partially blocked. That's not entirely his fault, but,
the NFL today has come out and officially ruled that kick as a blocked kick.
I did notice that when I landed and got off the plane. I did see they changed that, which, for Cody Parkey's sake, I guess it doesn't mean anything, but I think the Bears fans need to let up on him just a little bit.
What was it like? Was it? Was he just getting booed unmercifully out there?
Yeah, I mean, when it went down, you got to remember and think about the season that's been and what these fans have endured watching Parkey kick. It's been a doing fest left and right, pretty much that one post the whole season. So that was instantly in the back of their minds. Everybody watching at home, I know they were replaying some of the video of those misses. But these fans knew it going into the kick, and he had made the one before Doug called the timeout. So I think they had gotten a little confident, like, all right, he's got it. And then when that happened, I mean, they couldn't believe that their season ended. It was a great atmosphere last night, waving those towels. It was loud. I give the Bears fans credit, but they were all over Parkey as soon as that ended. A lot of boots, yes, as he ran off the field.
I want to go through. You gave Peterson an A, Jeffrey an A, Tate an A, Rasul Douglas an A. But I want to ask you about the role that Nigel Bradham had in the defensive game plan and why he got an A. Because you might look at his numbers and wonder, okay, what did he do? He had 7 tackles, which is second on the team. But why was he so important?
I just felt like Bradham was a really big part of the success they had in really shutting down the run, particularly in the first half. He was there every time. I think he missed one tackle later in the game that led to a first down. But overall, I liked the way Bradham and the intensity he had, the way he was playing the position. And I think he had 2 tackles for a loss. And you can't underestimate those. When you're trying to win a down and set a team up for potentially 3rd and long, which is where this team thrives, I thought Bradham was huge in all of that and was really impressed with the way that he kind of helped set a tone, particularly early in the game. And the batted passes, too, at the line. this team, these guys have not been getting their hands up much when balls are thrown just to try to deflect them. Connor Barwin was always so good at that, but I thought Bradham deflecting a couple of those passes yesterday was big too.
Scott, ever since Golden Tate arrived in Philadelphia, we've had plenty of conversations about his lack of production in the offense. Essentially the coaching staff failing to get him incorporated into this offense quickly. But after last night, you think the trade's worth it? Like Mike said, you gave him an A. So talk about Golden Tate and his huge game and a couple of his huge plays last night.
Yeah, you got a sense from him from when he got here that there was going to be a period where he tried to find his role on the team. What was his identity with the team? And then he had the one game where he made some catches, and I think he started to think, okay, here's my role. I should get more opportunities. And then he has these times where the ball's just not thrown to him. And I think last night justified the trade. And the reason why is a couple of guys on offense talked about how they ran that play all week, and it was unstoppable in practice. So when they needed it, one play to win the game, that's the play they went to. And the guys felt very confident it was going to work because, like I said, they said it was never stopped in practice, and that Golden Tate executed it well. Nick Foles executed it well on the rollout. And it was just a tough play. If Nick throws it right, it's an unstoppable pass. And he did. They executed it well. And that, to me, in my mind, you're talking about extending your season right now. That play there really helped justify giving away a third-round pick for that. That was Tate. And I know, Mike, I heard you earlier talking about the play. Tate got a pop, ran under a ball where Foles had put some air under it over the middle of the field. Huge catch at the time. I would have liked to have seen Foles not put quite as much air under it, but a great catch by Tate to hold on to that ball and also to shake off the trainers and say, I want to get back in the game, and he did. Tate, to me, huge play yesterday, big part of the win.
Yeah, there was another play, too. Goedert, who didn't have mind-boggling stats, but, what do we call Zach? No yak Zach. It seems like he catches the ball and goes down immediately. Goedert had a huge break of a tackle that ended up, he had a key reception on that game-winning drive that ended up getting him a first down.
Yeah, and Goedert, again, is a guy who has continued to just do the work and eventually is getting some more and more opportunities. They didn't do as much two tight end sets yesterday as they have in recent weeks. But when he's out there, he is very good at somehow keeping his balance and adding some yards. So, yeah, there is no Yak Zach, and then there's going to be Goedert, who has the opportunity to add some yards to his catches. And when you think about this as a guy who's a rookie, when he has a full off season to really process more of what he did this season, what he learned, I look for Goedert to have a big year next year potentially. And there's only so many footballs to throw around, particularly when you've got Zach Ertz lining up at tight end as well. But I think Goddard's role is going to continue to evolve.
Absolutely. And going on to the defensive side of the ball, Scott, Michael Bennett, since the Eagles have turned this around, I feel like he's just been the key guy from the defensive side of the ball. That's just my opinion. There's other guys that you could easily pick, but Michael Bennett last night, another good performance from him. You gave him a grade of a B. Just talk about the shoulder padless Michael Bennett and what he did last night.
Yeah, that is funny. But, the biggest thing with me with Bennett, I would have given him an A, but that penalty was so costly. That could have cost them their season ultimately when you think about it and the role it might have had as the game played on, that they went downfield and got a field goal off of that penalty he had that was uncalled for. As a veteran, he has to know he can't commit that penalty. And I got to believe that somebody this week or more than one person is going to get to him and say, you can't have that happen again. That was the reason he got a B instead of an A. But you nailed it, Ryan. I think over this last, 7-game stretch where they've won 6 of them, ever since the loss to New Orleans, I think Michael Bennett's really emerged as a guy who's sort of the sidekick to Fletcher Cox. Cox gets double teamed. Somebody's got to get in there. And lately it's been Michael Bennett who seems to have been the benefactor of the attention Cox tends to get. So those two guys right now working very well. And I think Bennett has certainly elevated the play of that defensive line by the way that he has and the attention he's going to continue to get from some of these opponents as they go down the line.
Okay, I'm looking up and down this card. I don't see Cre'Von LeBlanc anywhere. How is he not in at least the B category? He had a tremendous game yesterday, LeBlanc.
You're right. I was trying to rush out of there because it was getting late. LeBlanc had a good game as well. You're right. He played very well in those nickel situations, batted some balls away, had some good defenses on some of those pass plays. I think LeBlanc played well. Sullivan had an interception. I didn't include him either. He had an interception dead to rights in the end zone that would have stopped a drive and dropped it. And he was caught for a touchdown on the deflection. But I think those two guys, and you look at, and quite frankly, Mike, I think that's the big difference in this team now versus the team that played down in New Orleans before. These younger guys have gotten more experience. They've gotten more experience in the defense. And when they went down there before, they just got ripped apart by Drew Brees because these guys were not used to how to play that defense. And Malcolm Jenkins said to Jim Schwartz, we got to dumb it down a little bit. They have these guys that are younger, less experienced, have played very well as a result. And I asked several of these guys in the locker room, they seemed like after that loss to New Orleans really set forth in motion the way that you guys are playing now. How different is this team from the one that was there before? They said, we're extremely different. We're more confident. We have more experience. We were really banged up at the time. We're getting healthier. And they totally feel like they're going down there as a different team.
By the way, the LeBlanc play on that reception, but not reception because nobody recovered the fumble, that whole, whatever happened on that play that the NFL had to come out and explain. That's the play of the game. I mean, if they make that catch, because they end up not giving them the reception there, and I think that's when Trubisky ended up getting sacked.
I think you're right. And to me, that was – he fought through that all the way to the ground. And I frankly thought that he never showed control through the catch because LeBlanc had his arm in there and was wrestling it, that when he went down to the ground and it popped out, I didn't think it should have been a catch in the first place. Because nobody went and got the ball. Now, you think back to the Dallas fumble where there was no clear recovery in the Dallas game when the Eagles played there, and now this. Somebody's got to make a decision now after every play when there's a ball out there, just go pick it up. Because you never know.
How many times do you see guys pick up the ball after the whistle's been blown
and start
they
running.
Go running down and they're like blowing the whistle 5-10 times, like, play's dead. And in this situation – the ball's just laying there, and it's like the only time I've ever seen nobody go after the ball.
And I feel like if someone did pick it up, they would have called it.
Well, the way that it was defined by the ruling, because that's the way that I was waiting for interpretation as well, because he said there was no clear recovery. Well, by that, you're saying there was a catch.
Yes.
So if there was a catch,
the way that they had,
I was trying to understand.
Whoever the CBS, the NBC official, I think it was Terry McCauley, I think is their guy. He thought that it was a catch and that because there was no clear recovery, that the ball was going to be spotted at the spot that he fumbled it. Because he thought it was a catch.
Clarified.
He thought it was a catch and a fumble, but no recovery on the fumble. So therefore, the ball would be placed where the ball was actually fumbled, not back at the original line of scrimmage.
And that's what I was debating with up in the press box was why then if you're saying there was a catch, why didn't they get the ball there? And the way the NFL has written the rule, you had to go back to then the call on the field, which was an incomplete. So that's why the Eagles got a big break there, that was called an incomplete pass initially, and that's why it went back. And you're right, that was a huge play in the game, and LeBlanc fighting through that was big.
Scott Grayson, he's got locker room reaction and Grayson's grades right now. Posted at 973ESPN.com on his way back from Chicago. New Orleans is next. We will dive into that game throughout the week. And Scott Grayson will be with us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thanks, pal.
All right. Thank you, guys.